record button.
All right. Well, I guess we'll get going. Welcome everybody to the Department of Aging and Rehabilitative Services Career Cafe. I am Josh Sloan, your host. I'm also the Volunteer and Outreach Coordinator with Sportable. We are a nonprofit in Richmond that provides sports to people with physical disabilities and visual impairments. So if you want to learn more about that, you can always check out sportable.org for all of those things. If you haven't already, I would suggest turning off your camera and your microphone unless you are one of the interviewees, and that's, David. Otherwise, we didn't have any requests for interpreters, so we don't have sign language interpretation. So if that is something that you need, we did not receive the message that you needed it. So apologies in advance if that's the case. The Career Cafe is produced by the Department of Aging and Rehabilitative Services and Virginia Ability, and the goal here is to help people explore career options and opportunities in the state of Virginia. Today, I will be interviewing David Peterson with the Solar Hands-On Instructional Network of Excellence, or SHINE. So we'll probably be saying SHINE going forward, but that stands for, again, Solar Hands-On Instructional Network of Excellence. And he is going to talk about the career of solar installation technician. Today, we are going to do things just a tiny bit differently, not too much. The first thing, David will run through a PowerPoint that he has to give us kind of a brief overview of the SHINE program. And then I will ask him some interview questions. And following my interview questions, we will open up for questions from the chat. As always, feel free to drop a question in the chat as soon as it comes into your head at any point, and we will make sure to get to all of them before 5 o'clock. I'll just go back up to the first one that was asked and go all the way down to the bottom. So feel free to ask any questions at any point. And yeah, if you wouldn't mind, try to refrain from unmuting yourself, again, unless you're me or David. And other than that, I think that's all of the business at hand. So we will get started. David, if you want to go ahead and share your screen and give us a brief overview of the SHINE program, that should be a great place to get going.
I'm happy to. Well, thank you, John, and welcome everyone. I appreciate the opportunity to say a few words about solar in Virginia and about what SHINE's doing, how we might be able to help some of y'all engage in a career in the industry. I'm David Peterson, like Josh said, SHINE's executive director, and this presentation is to give you a little overview about how we build sustainable solar energy pathways in Virginia. So this slide is a byproduct of our research, and it is part of our solar project pipeline analysis. We track all the solar development going on throughout the state and compile it and distribute that information to various stakeholders around the Commonwealth. What we can see from this is that over the next 7 or 8 years, we're going to see over 30,000 jobs in the solar field come online, which is about 27 gigawatts of energy, which might not mean a lot to a layperson, but if you're familiar with that, it is a lot of electricity. The wages that will come from that are in the neighborhood of $1.7 to $1.8 billion, and it's 329 projects that are currently in the pipeline throughout the state. This is also a graphic that shows the amount of employment, the gap in the jobs that are available and are projected now compared to what will be necessary for us to meet our goals. By 2030, we'll require by 2035 over 900,000 workers across the nation in the industry. So this should give everyone a sense of truly how rapidly this industry is growing and what the opportunities are to get in at this level. I'd like to give a little background as to the why of SHINE. A few years ago, we started to foresee the tremendous growth in Virginia's solar energy market and noticed that many of the wages generated from solar projects were going to workers who were coming from out of state in order to fill the technician jobs that Virginia had yet to be able to provide. So we saw an opportunity to help equip Virginians with the skills and knowledge to enter the solar field, as well as to drive the direct financial benefits of solar project development into the communities where this work is taking place. So we partnered with Southside Virginia Community College, solar advocacy groups, and a host of other industry partners to develop a program to help bridge the gap between solar job supply and solar job demand. And SHINE was born. So SHINE is, like Josh said, it's an acronym for Solar Hands-On Instructional Network of Excellence. It's a first of its kind nonprofit public-private partnership dedicated to building those career pathways that I spoke of earlier. We've designed a fast track training course that prepares students for entry-level work on large-scale solar projects in about a week's time. The course is comprised of both classroom work and hands-on installation training at our newly built learning lab on the grounds of Southside Virginia Community College's Blackstone campus at Fort Pickett. We'll also be debuting 2 custom-made mobile labs in the coming months, which will allow us to bring the immersive learning experience to the communities throughout Virginia and focus the training in areas where the projects are being constructed. The training program has been designed with input from academic partners, veteran solar developers, and solar construction firms to ensure that the graduates come out with the knowledge and the skills needed to set themselves apart in the solar job market. So graduates of the program receive a SHINE certification to signal to prospective solar employers that the time and effort they put in to become solar job ready, both in the classroom and in real world conditions. Our learning labs were designed really to give students ample opportunity to experience what day-to-day life on a solar construction development looks like, and to get a real sense of what the job entails. In addition to the SHINE certification, graduates will also receive OSHA 10 certification, which is very important, especially in Virginia, with Dominion Energy being part of a lot of the work in that space. They require OSHA 10 certification for all employees that work on their projects. In addition to that, we equip graduates with the knowledge of solar technology fundamentals, as well as hands-on technician and safety training that I mentioned earlier. And that, again, really gives folks an advantage on the workplace. So the benefits of SHINE are that it's an affordable program. It is offered through the community college partners that we have at a price of $825 with opportunities for fast forward tuition assistance and other sources that can bring that price down to $275 or even less. Our goal is that no one is denied the opportunity to participate because of any kind of hardship, be it financial or otherwise. And in the current climate, there are many opportunities to defray the cost of this down to zero. Program graduates can go from having little to no knowledge of the solar industry to being job ready, like I said, in 1 week. Our extensive project tracking, which I'll give you some insight into a little bit later, enables us to be able to ensure the graduates have opportunities on job sites that are near to them. And that's important to us to be able to bring the training to the places where the jobs are actually being created. The need also for job-ready solar candidates is high enough that graduates can advance from entry-level positions within a lot of these companies to leadership roles in a fairly short period of time. Another thing we do, again, is placement. Through our industry partners and sponsors, we're committed to helping find job opportunities for students after they graduate. So unlike a number of other workforce type programs, it's not congratulations, here's your certificate, now go get them. It's congratulations and here's your interview. It's very important for us that we be able to help provide opportunities. Here's a picture of our training lab on the grounds of Southside Virginia Community College, where students receive hands-on experience with the tools and equipment used in the solar PV installation. As you can see, this is what's known as a ground-mounted installation, which is different than a lot of people envision when they think of solar. They immediately think of rooftops, but in the utility scale, the larger application of solar at the at the megawatt and gigawatt level is using ground mount facilities, and so these are on a scale that is far greater than rooftops can supply. And solar panels in a normal utility scale installation can be, can cover, hundreds and hundreds of acres of land. And that, again, is why the need for technicians is so high. Here's an example, like I said a little bit earlier, of our project tracker, which highlights every utility scale solar project under development in the Commonwealth. We compile data through public information as well as through our stakeholders on the ground to put these projections together. This is a snapshot, if you will, into all of the projects that we're tracking right now. And you can use this visualization to zoom in on a project by project level, on a county by county level. And we project through our analytics when these projects, when the construction will come online. As you might expect, a lot of these projects, with the size they are, take a fair amount of time to go through the regulatory process. So we have a decent amount of insight into when they'll be coming online. This again is another attribute of our tracking, where we can look at the projects on a county by county basis, by community college service areas, and on a month by month basis as well. So this is an indication of the lengths that we go to make sure that the folks that come into the program actually have a job waiting for them on the way out. And like I said, that's really a significant part of why we do what we do. Here's a quick look at some of the organizations that we partner with. I imagine Dominion Energy is a logo that's probably familiar to a lot of people, but these are also solar developers and solar construction firms that are big in Virginia, as well as throughout the country and some throughout the world. So we've partnered with some of the most experienced and well-evolved organizations in the field. If you're interested in learning a little bit more about Shine and what we do, feel free to hop onto our website, shine.energy, email me, david@shine.energy, or reach out on my cell phone at 804-307-8132. And that is my cell phone, so please no late night texts, but otherwise feel free to give me a call. I wanted to also include this as far as opportunities available in the solar industry writ large. This is the IREC solar career map, and IREC stands for Interstate Renewable Energy Council. This is a visualization that is interactive, and if you go onto this website on this link, you can go through any of these particular career paths, and they give you a really clear look at what the opportunities in solar are today and what they can be for you career-wise moving forward. So I would suggest and urge anyone interested to hop onto that site and take a look. And that's it for my synopsis of the program, and I'm happy to turn it over to you, Josh.
Thanks. That was great. That was very, very helpful in terms of just knowing the basics of what you're doing, and also like how high demand all of this field is. It's pretty staggering, actually. I didn't know a lot of that. So I guess, I think most of the people on this call would probably be interested, in hopefully applying for the program. So what does that application process look like? Do you need to be a certain age? Do you need to be like have certain qualifications? What is the, I know it's through the community college, so, I don't know how that affects things.
Right, right. It's very similar to how you would go about applying to a workforce program at a community college. So the need for a high school diploma or equivalent is generally looked at as a plus. It's not necessary, but it's looked at as a plus. And past that, there aren't a huge number of barriers that need to be overcome to gain admission and acceptance into the program. It's like I said, the need in the industry is large enough, and our goal is to equip people with the skills that endow them with the ability to succeed. So the constraints for being able to enter the program are not high.
That's actually something that comes up a lot during the Q&As on these calls is what about for people that have like criminal records or like formerly incarcerated? Is that something that would negate someone from being able to enroll in the program or not?
Not in the least.
Okay.
Not in the least. We actually currently have a relationship with the Department of Corrections to train to train people that are transitioning out of incarceration and have paid their debt to society, and we don't consider that a disqualifying barrier for folks. There are industry partners out there who have criteria that subjects certain backgrounds to that kind of consideration, but we've developed a number of offboarding opportunities for folks that don't have crystal clean records. And it's very important to me and to the program that we support those that are interested in making those career-wise steps in their life.
That's awesome. That's great stuff. So just give me an idea, like once someone graduates from the program and they have a successful interview and they get hired, what is their day-to-day life going to look like in these kind of opportunities?
Yeah, it's similar, if you will, to a construction related field. A lot of people at the Bureau of Labor and Statistics view these roles as very similar to construction jobs at the utility scale. There are three basic disciplines within solar, and they break down as residential, commercial, and utility. And a lot of it comes down to how much power is being generated and where it's being tied into the grid. But it also breaks down along lines of the size of the project. Residential, as you might imagine, is for usually rooftop applications and installation onto rooftops of homes. Commercial is a mixture of rooftops of buildings, usually commercial buildings such as warehouses or schools or things like that, or what's known as ground mount installation adjacent to commercial structures. So it can be an array, a photovoltaic array that is built on the ground near a commercial structure like a warehouse or a school. And then utility scale is the larger stuff that is, can be hundreds of thousands or millions of solar panels that are constructed usually in rural areas, farmland type locations. So the job is that can give you a sense of the milieu, what the location feels like. So if it's a residential job, it would be similar to what a roofer might experience in their day-to-day. On the commercial side, again, similar to sort of a commercial roofing type job. And on the utility scale, similar more to a construction job with days spent predominantly outside in the weather and doing fairly repetitive actions in the technician role that involves mounting and installing solar panels, connecting them into the array, and making sure that job is done safely and effectively.
Gotcha. And of those three fields, what is sort of the highest, I mean, how high are the demand for jobs in each of those fields, I guess is what I'm asking.
That's a great question. The highest demand by far right now is in the utility scale. And that's primarily because with there's been some legislation that passed recently in Virginia, the Virginia Clean Economy Act, that some of you might know about and some might not, but that was passed in 2020. And that mandates that by 2045, Virginia be at net zero or carbon neutral. So the need for the larger electric utilities to source electricity from non-fossil fuel burning sources is paramount to meeting those requirements. And so by 2045, Dominion Energy, for instance, is going to install over 16 gigawatts of power. And for a point of reference, a gigawatt of power can provide the electricity for around 700,000 homes. So it's a tremendous, tremendous need. And on that scale, it can only be done using larger installations. So projects of that utility scale are the ones that are being built with the fervor that we're seeing. So a lot of those jobs are going to be at the utility scale. That said, this training focuses on the ground mount installation. So that's more geared toward the jobs that are more readily available right now. But that doesn't mean that a lot of these skills could transfer to rooftop and commercial installations, because again, it's mostly about the familiarity with the concepts, the fundamentals, and the equipment. And it's very similar for both rooftop and ground mount installations.
Gotcha. Gotcha. And so, a lot of the people on this call and a lot of people who the DARS folks serve might have a disability of a variety of kinds of disabilities. How does Shine, how would Shine deal with that, as well as in terms of, so for Shine, I mean, I think we're talking about classroom accommodations and things like that. And I mean, how do you think that could work in the field, depending?
Yeah, it really depends, I think, on a case-by-case basis. And, knowing that these are sort of construction-oriented type jobs, I think that would be the kind of thing that every individual who would be wanting to pursue this as a career path would have to think about what barriers there might be in an environment like that. And if they're anxious to move forward, then we would work with that individual however we could to accommodate them in the space. Diversity, equity, and inclusion is a huge part of our mission, and we want to make sure that the program and the opportunities are available to anyone who might seek them.
Absolutely, that's great. That's great stuff. So, tell me some more about the guys, or about your partners, like the folks that might potentially be hiring people. Is it Dominion Energy sounds probably like a pretty big one?
Yeah.
Are there others?
Yeah, the industry is built in such a way that the Dominion Energies of the world, or large scale electric utilities, become the sort of off takers of the power. And it's interesting because a lot of people don't think, and I didn't before I entered the solar field, how electricity works. You walk in your house and you turn on the light switch, and your lights come on, and you don't think about that. And those electrons basically are generated at the moment you ask for that light to be turned on, and the moment you hit your toaster, that those electrons are mobilized from their point of origin to your house. So when we think about how the grid interacts with each individual, then we get a better sense of or understanding of how electricity is generated on that scale. So Dominion Energy, for instance, is responsible for making sure that all of that happens in a way so that you don't have to wonder why your lights don't go on, because they always go on. And that resilience and reliability is a big part of what they consider, their fundamental responsibilities. So when they endeavor to purchase power or generate power through another means, they usually work with outside developers who are the ones who they design the projects, they buy the land, and it can be, again, thousands of acres, and then they put together a team that will construct the solar facility. And that team, part of that team, are what's called EPCs, engineering, procurement, and construction contractors. And that team are the folks that actually are responsible for getting the work done. So the EPC contractors are the ones that will work with Dominion and with the developers to hire folks to come in and perform the jobs. And so those are the ones that we consider our sort of first line of contact with placement. And so we've got a number of them on our board, as well as Dominion Energy on our board. And our communication lines are critical to us being able to follow, predict the timelines of these projects, so that when they're hiring and when the jobs are available, we know, and we can direct strategically and somewhat, tactically our training, so that folks that graduate can graduate into a job. Did that answer the question?
Yeah, absolutely. That answered the question. And just to clarify one thing that you said, for folks on the call that might not know, when he says that these companies are represented on Shine's board, basically that means that although David is the boss over at Shine, there are people that are sort of above him and more in a leadership role. And if David ever wanted to leave that company and a new boss would come in, these are the people that would hire that person. They have a ton of stake in Shine. They love what Shine does. They support what Shine does. These people are all on the board, then could also help the people who enroll in the Shine program find jobs. So that's a really good thing. And I'm glad you brought that up. And it sort of, well, I didn't, but I'm going to segue anyway, into after graduating from the program, after getting the job, how much money are we looking at making?
Well, the program graduates, again, these are into somewhat entry-level positions by definition, usually 15 to 17 an hour. So it's a solid living wage. The thing about the industry right now that is very exciting is that there's so much growth and so much development, especially in Virginia, as well as elsewhere. So if anyone is interested in traveling and willing to travel, that makes them even more marketable for these jobs. But the ability to grow within organizations, move up within companies is really at an all-time high, especially in this industry. So graduating into, again, if people come in motivated, willing to work, and wanting to succeed, they can excel fairly quickly, and within a few years' time can be, earning great salaries.
Gotcha. And with that mobility, I mean, what are the sort of rungs in the ladder in terms of career paths within the solar field? I mean, it's,
yeah,
yeah,
that's a great question. From this space, it usually moves into a supervisory role where the person graduates from being a technician to being in charge of other technicians, and then they can again, within the company or with different companies, we try to develop 3 or 4 different vectors for career trajectories through the program outputs. One of them is to stay with the company that they graduated the program into and grow with the company. And that would be people that might be more willing to travel, or would really embrace the organization that they came into. Another avenue would be they wanted to stay tight within their community. So they either went to another solar developer within the region that was operating a project, or to another project, another construction type role within the community that would give them the opportunity to stay rooted where they live. And another avenue would be to pursue re-educating or getting more education. So coming back and getting either an associate's degree in a renewable energy curriculum or a four-year degree, having this work experience and the benefits of the experience that the Shine program gave them. But if sort of the avenue that you were describing would be one where, and again, the IREC solar career map is a great way because it will help you visualize those potential jumps and career narratives, if you will. But usually someone comes from technician and goes into supervisor and then goes into like a site manager or a program manager director role. And then a lot of people then choose to get some electrician type experience because again, this is the electrician sort of milieu is solar. So that there are a lot of opportunities for apprenticeships in electrician jobs and roles, and some choose that path. And the solar industry is also just like any other industry where there are companies who hire salespeople, business development people, marketing people, it runs the gamut, accounting, human resources. So just because you've gotten solar experience doesn't mean that you couldn't, move over laterally into different departments within organizations that do solar or renewable energy. Again, a lot of these companies are big. Some have thousands. A couple of our off takers have over 10,000 employees. So these are big corporations, and they're the reason we endorse them as Shine certified is because they have passed our test for their ability and willingness to invest in their employees. It's important to us that this become career opportunity for graduates and not just a job that's not going to be a job when the project is over.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And is there any sort of guarantee that you get a job through the program, or is it more so like there is a good likelihood, like you can definitely get somebody in front of an interview,
Really
like that?
Strong likelihood. I would say you're virtually guaranteed a job. And every person we've put through the program to date has had an opportunity to work in solar. One of the, at the end of the day, the individual is going to need to decide, whether they want to pursue the career, and if they do, the opportunities are there. There's just like any job, there's a pre-hire interview, there's drug screening, and if that's acceptable and you're willing to perform to those standards, then I'm very, very comfortable in saying that employment is virtually guaranteed.
Right. And you mentioned that everybody that's been through the program has gotten a job. How many people have been through the program, which is also brings up another question that I'd be curious, how long has the program been around?
Yeah, well, we've graduated 35 through our pilot programs to date. We had we were moving into the second phase when coronavirus hit and everything was shut down in March of last year. And that through the community college system really curtailed our ability to do the hands-on training that's so important as part of this. So we've been basically, the program has been in mothballs since Governor Northam shut down the community colleges in March of last year. It's just coming online, and we're starting to enroll again in fall of this year. So the need is out there, and we're going to have our 2 mobile labs at Central Virginia Community College and Tidewater Community College coming up in the fall.
And I would actually think of that. I mean, somebody might hear that it's a new program and say like, oh, that like, I would think of that as a good thing in a lot of ways, because if it's a new program, all of these relationships that sounds like you have developed with these employers are very fresh, and they're probably very motivated to make this work and get people in the door and really get this thing going. So, I mean, I think it'd be a great time to get into a program like this personally.
It's a great way to describe it. And, you know, that there also has been a fair amount of need post-pandemic, you know, coming out of the pandemic, as the world, as we become more free to roam about the cabin. Um, it's obvious that there's a tremendous need for folks in the private sector and in the workforce. And so a lot of the partners that we have are very, very motivated to support the program and to support our graduates. So it really is it's a great time to get into solar.
Yeah, most definitely. Most definitely. Well, I think that that's basically everything that is there anything that I'm missing that you would like to bring up before we take some questions from the chat?
I think you covered it really well, Josh. I do. Off the top of my head, I can't think of anything that that we haven't already covered.
Okay, well, LaPearl had a question that I think is actually pretty interesting, not just for her area, which is the Northern Virginia area, where she saw on the map that there's some projected projects up there. And she would like to know if these projects are connected through the community colleges in the Lord Fairfax and Nova Community College, I guess, groupings or something. And do you know the projected dates or specific businesses involved in any of those projects?
Yes, and she can reach out to me directly for that information if she'd like to. Right now, Nova and Lord Fairfax are on our list, our projected list for the next couple of years to build the program out into. The development that's occurring in the Northern Virginia area is not quite on the scale and at the pace that's happening more through the south side into the Tidewater region. So as we scale, we definitely plan to get up to Lord Fairfax and Nova, and as the project pipeline necessitates it, we'll definitely be up there.
Right.
That said, anybody who wants to come, you know, down to the Blackstone campus, and the program is only 3 days, so you know it's a fast track, and we can provide accommodation if it you know if it looks like that would help make it work for any of the participants. And then if there are jobs in the region, we can help find employment in places where the development is occurring. If the development's occurring, then we're happy to help place people there.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like the Tidewater area, especially Western Tidewater, is like a really huge potential slash, you know, spot for this, because I mean, I was just driving down 460 on the way to the beach, and I drove by a massive what used to be field and is now a big solar field, which brings me to Wes has two questions that I was going to go over, which is the first is what happens to the land on the large, in terms of like its large scale use, when there is maybe it was formerly a farm, what happens to the farm?
Yeah, a lot of times that land is essentially repurposed. The people who own it decide that they would rather use that space for a solar installation than to farm. That said, there's there are a lot of ecological advantages to letting the earth recover from farming, and the way agrarian economies have worked, you know, eons past and up to now. We've been sort of wringing as much out of the land as we can in the past century or two, and the idea of giving the land some time to recover and refresh its nutrient composition and its soil is certainly not new. So a lot of the development that's occurring are opportunities that these landowners see to be able to participate in the revenue that can be generated through solar development, as well as to abate some of the risk of farming these days. And again, it's up to all of this is done via the private sector and the landowners who choose to invite solar development onto their land do it of their own free will.
Gotcha. Another question, when someone is hired on, do they need to have their own tools? We were talking to some mechanics last month, and that was definitely the case there.
That's a great question. And Shine strives to provide tools for its graduates as part of our support. Many jobs require, they have tool belt requirements that folks need to be able to walk on through the fence on the first day having. It's not a prohibitively expensive list, but it's something that through our program we like to help provide for or defray the costs of. That's a great question.
And let's see. Are there any other questions in the chat? Feel free to ask any questions to Jeff or David at all. We got plenty of time. Usually we can hardly get through all the questions. They're like flying out. You must be doing such a good job answering them as you're going along that we don't have as many coming in.
That's got to be it.
Hi, I'm Josh and David. This is LaPearl. First of all, David, great presentation, excellent information. Looking forward to connecting with you. I've got your email address. I just had a question about land. I know, especially the Northern Virginia part around what I call the Beltway area,
Right.
Fairfax. Now, there's not a whole lot of land that has not already been taken up with buildings and metro and Lord knows what else, 66 or whatever else they're doing there in Northern Virginia.
Right.
Is that a factor that you all consider when you're looking at projects for these solar production things?
It is, LaPearl. That's a great question. And as I'll put on my developer hat, which I'm not, and I have a lot of respect for the folks that do the work of trying to figure out where to site solar development and how to make all those pieces fall into place. And the availability and affordability of land is definitely a big part of the diligence that a lot of these people have to go through to get a solar site approved and built. As you might imagine, space of this magnitude can be fairly expensive in the Northern Virginia area as compared to other parts of the state where there isn't quite as much development. It's a little bit more rural. So that is where a lot of the development's happening, because the land is more affordable and it's more economically feasible to be able to generate the magnitude of the projects that are being undertaken. That probably will remain fairly consistent throughout Virginia's journey through the energy transition. You might expect also that the mountainous regions out west see a little bit less of this development, just because the terrain is a little bit more difficult to adapt to when you're installing solar. Those areas are generally viewed as a little bit more friendly to onshore wind, which probably isn't a surprise. That said, there's also a term called brownfield development, and that is taking things like old decommissioned coal mines and places like Superfund sites that generally don't have the opportunity to develop through other commercial means, and outfitting them as renewable energy installations. And there's a lot of solar development that is in the pipeline to occur on brownfields throughout the western part of the state and through West Virginia. So that'll make a healthy contribution as well to the overall energy production mix throughout the state. But LaPearl, that's a great question, and I hope I answered it okay.
That's a great answer, and we certainly know about the cost of living in Northern Virginia, the cost of land. So thank you. That's a great answer. Can I just, while I have your ear, there's so much back and forth, and I'm not trying to make this a political conversation, but there's so much back and forth about solar energy and the green and all that stuff, which I guess kind of plays into this. So have you faced any resistance in this project from those that kind of not on board with this type of energy?
Well, that's another great question. And how much time you got?
Josh, how much time do we have?
About 15
I-
minutes.
I won't ask any more questions. I promise. I won't ask more questions.
I say that in jest. Of course, there is a degree to which attributes of renewable energy and the energy transition have become somewhat politicized, and I think it's unfortunate because there are a few moments in our history, frankly, where the business case and the social case for renewable energy align in as convergent a way as they do today for renewable energy. Obviously, we know a lot about, and we're hearing a lot about the climate impacts of fossil fuels and carbon dioxide, and what it means to try to mitigate that and to move toward renewable energy so that we can make the planet a safe and frankly habitable place into the future. But a little bit less discussion, I think, reaches most people's ears about the business case for renewable energy. And we are at a point where solar energy in Virginia is the cheapest form of electricity to generate. So when it comes to larger organizations like Amazon or Microsoft or folks that are building data centers throughout the state that consume enormous amounts of electricity, it's important to them that they be able to source power as economically as possible. So we're at that, I call it a moment where cheesecake is healthy, because not only is the social case compelling, but also the business case is compelling, because if you're a controller for a large corporation and your responsibility is to maximize your bottom line, then you need to get your electricity as cheaply as you can, and solar is the cheapest out there right now. So I think the political discussion over time will become less fraught, and it's certainly, I understand why it is where it is, and to me, I fall fairly based on my role and my career choice. It wouldn't surprise you what side of that equation I fall on, but I understand why people have concerns, and it's change, and it's fairly abrupt change that is necessary. However, even if you took away the social case, the business case would probably see this development occurring at this pace simply because it's good economics. So it's hard to argue that there's a downside to the transition that's taking place.
So
Thank you very much.
That's a really, really good answer that is not pushing anybody's buttons, and I would not be able to answer it.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. It's something that I think a lot about, because I sympathize with people, on every side of this. And there's a lot of these projects have to get permitted and approved in the localities that they're taking place. So it's not like there's a statewide set of rules that determine whether or not a project can be approved. So you've got areas of the state with fairly vocal opposition to projects that are involved in the renewable energy transition, and they deserve to have a voice, and they deserve to have their voices heard, because it is their community that these are happening in. And I think if the industry and we as a society do a sufficiently good job of understanding and communicating what's at stake, as well as the benefits like jobs and job growth and careers that can come from this, then I think a lot of those concerns can be dispelled.
Definitely. Another question was, are there any high school classes that you would recommend students take that are interested in this field?
That's an awesome question. Right now, we're working with the Virginia Education Commission to bring the program into the CTE space, the career and technical education space, which is where people in K-12 in high school going through high school can actually take the course and become certified for that. And hopefully that we'll be bringing Shine into the CTE world in high schools throughout the Commonwealth very soon. For now, if there are any, and I'm on the board of the VEWC, the Virginia Energy Workforce Consortium, and we just got energy 2 years ago approved as the 17th career cluster for CTE education. So over the course of the next few years, energy as a curriculum and the opportunity to take courses that focus on energy and renewable energy, and obviously solar and wind are going to be more and more available. So I would say stay on the lookout where you are for opportunities, and feel free to reach out to me, and I can help you find avenues of education wherever you are.
Gotcha. And then I think we just got 2 more questions, so we might be able to wrap up a little bit early. The first one is, what is the lifespan of a solar panel?
Another great question. It varies. Right now, the decommissioning lifespan of a project is right around 25 years. Some of the panels that are being created now claim to be able to last a little bit longer. And as technology continues to advance, I think we'll see panels, up to a 50-year lifespan in not too far from now. One of the things that's made solar power so much more affordable than it was 10 years ago is the technology associated with it is really, really evolving rapidly. So maybe not the next generation of solar panel, but maybe 2 or 3. If you think about generations kind of in iPhone terminology, then a few generations down the road, I think we'll see panels that can last quite a while.
Gotcha. And then we were wondering, do you see any pushback from electric companies about moving towards solar, like Dominion, for example?
It's, interestingly, Dominion is a tremendous benefit to us and has really embraced the transition. There are a lot of, we're at a really interesting moment in our evolution as a society, that again, like I said, the social case for renewables and the value that renewables represent to organizations like electric utilities means that they're embracing. Well, they first accept and now embrace that reality. And again, because it makes good economic sense. If there was no social cause, if there was no green movement, Dominion would still be building at this pace because it's sound business for them.
Right, right, definitely.
So it really does help make this an easy decision for folks at that level. It's a great question though, and it wasn't always that way. When, as you might imagine, if it cost more to generate a kilowatt of electricity through solar than it does through coal or natural gas, then a company like Dominion would be incentivized to generate it through coal or natural gas. But
right.
As it happens now, it's competitive, if not advantageous, to build it. In fact, it's cheaper to build a solar installation and generate solar electricity than it is to continue running a coal-fired plant. So, if you're a company that has to respond to the needs of your shareholders, then it makes sense to move to solar in that way as well.
Right, definitely. And then we had one more question pop up, a couple actually. Are the panels made in the USA, and are the solar panels recyclable?
Those are 2 excellent questions. Historically, the panels, like most manufacturing in the United States, has moved offshore over the course of the past generation or 2. So most of the panels are made in Asia and Southeast Asia. That said, through over the last 4 years, when supply chains have been somewhat disrupted by things like tariffs and trade considerations that the government has imposed, as well as the constraints brought about through the pandemic and difficulties in sourcing material, there's been a lot of focus and energy put toward how to beef up domestic production of solar panels. In fact, one of the on our board and one of the largest manufacturers in the world, First Solar, based out of Ohio, they donated all the panels that we use actually, and they're huge and they're growing. And I think we're going to see a lot more onshore production of solar for a couple reasons. One, it's becoming cost competitive, as well as it ensures that supply lines don't get disrupted in situations like we just saw over the course of 2020 with the pandemic. That kind of reliability means a lot to people that are, putting in orders for 100,000 or 200,000 solar panels. But that's a great question, and I hope I answered it okay.
Yeah, I think so, for sure. All right, well, I think that about wraps it up. David, this was awesome. Thank you so much for your willingness to help out with this. Everybody, if you want to get in touch with David, the best way is david@shine.energy, right? Is your email?
Yes, or 804-307-8132. Give me a shout. Or
perfect.
www.shine.energy as well. You can reach me through there, find out. Obviously, there's a lot more information on our website if you're interested. But if there's anything I or we can do to help anyone on this call or anyone who might be interested in a career in solar or renewables, we're happy to help.
Awesome. That's great stuff. And speaking personally, I really appreciate the work that you're doing. I think it's extremely important. So yeah, thank you everyone for attending. And presumably we will be having one next month, if not next month, the month after. I'm not sure who it will be yet, but we will communicate that with everyone as we learn. And yeah, enjoy the rest of your Thursday afternoon. And David, thanks again, man. Really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.